Now we're going to start step 2 in creating the Carmichael Estate. We're going to add the floors, the walls, and the ceilings. We're going to start by going to level 1, and we're going to zoom into one of the exterior walls and just take a quick measurement of the wall. And it says it's 9 7/8 inches. To grab that measurement, instead of putting and placing a dimension, all I did was simply use my quick access toolbar and use this little ruler. This ruler is just a measurement between two objects. It doesn't physically place the dimension, it just gives you a quick reading. So what we're going to do is zoom out, and we're going to start by adding the exterior walls. Now, note that again, our CAD base is in color. Our walls, when we add them, are going to be white. When we trace our walls, we're going to go from center to center and match it, tracing over any windows and any doors. Do not leave any gaps. To start, we're going to go ahead and go to the Architecture tab and click Wall. Let's go ahead and just use a generic 8-inch wall because it's already created in Revit. From there, I'm going to verify our constraints. All I'm doing is simply making my properties larger so that I can view and read everything clearly. So our location line is that dashed line, and it locates where to start. It starts with snapping just like in AutoCAD. That pink X is your snap mode. Then we're going to make sure our base constraint is set to level 1 because we're on level 1. Our top constraint needs to be the level above. Usually with exterior walls, you can go all the way to the top level, but just for practices, we're going to go up to the second level, and we're just going to stack each of the walls. So essentially what this is telling you is that we're going to draw on level 1, and the wall is going to go up to level 2. Because the distance in our levels, if you remember from the first video, is 3 feet, it should say 3 feet on unconnected height constraint. Now we just have to pick a starting point. I'm going to go ahead and start in the upper left corner of the house. I'm going to use my mouse and hover until I get the pink X and until those walls are highlighted. Also, another note, if you are using Revit 25, right here in all of your wall information, make sure where it says join status, you have allow checked. If it is not checked, the walls may not connect properly. You can also click auto join and lock. That way it automatically allows it to join. And you'll see when I trace and go through my corners, how it's just a continuous line and I don't have to connect them. It automatically connects. So now that I'm in my center and I have my pink X, I'm going to click one time, and you'll notice the cursor starts to add a dimension. All I'm going to do is keep it straight, zoom in and out, and pan while I'm still in my command. Notice I am going over the windows and ignoring the fact that they're there. I am not leaving an opening for the windows. When I get to a corner, I'm going to zoom in and just make sure that I get to the center, and then I'm going to start following the wall in the same direction. Notice how it automatically creates an automated joint. You'll know you're looking at your Revit walls because they are white, and your AutoCAD walls are in the color of the background. Now, I accidentally hit escape on my keyboard while I was showing you. Therefore, it took me out of the command. So I'm going to click wall again. I'm going to make sure again that it's my 8-inch wall, that it's from level 1 to level 2, and verify all those constraints. Now, if you're slightly off, we can always align that later. But now I'm going to just make sure to get my center snap. And because it's attaching to a wall, it's going to be a square this time. Now I'm just going to start dragging down and follow the outline of my exterior walls. Now, if you'll note by the front door, there's this odd box. It's because there are some columns there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the center. I'm going to come down, come around the column, go back up, and turn right again. I will come back and add walls to that corner in just a moment. Now, again, keep in mind, I'm going over any doors and any windows, not leaving a gap for any of these elements. Again, down, around, and back up. I'm just going to keep tracing, continue tracing my exterior wall, again, crossing over any windows, crossing over any doors, and just tracing my exterior walls. And I'm just going to follow everything in the exterior. Sometimes it can be hard to read, but in this case, I would just make sure I'm staying within those olive colored lines. If there's a little jog in the wall, go ahead and draw that jog as well. Keep tracing using your zoom and pan. Click the corner. Let's go up. Go over that window. Back up again. If your angle does not match up properly, we can always align it. If you'll notice, mine is slightly off, and that's okay. We're going to come back after we trace these few corners. And we're going to align the walls. So go ahead and continue. Again, pass over the door, pass over the window. Go ahead and come up and come down and back over. And now we have the entire exterior trace. So now let's go back and align. So to align some of these walls, we're going to go ahead and click Modify, select Align, and anything that's off like this, select your CAD base and then your Revit white wall. And or you can just move it in between by simply clicking and dragging. For the most part, it's all aligned with the exception of these little angled areas. Again, you can use your align button and align it, or you can try to move it. In these areas that have the angled walls, it would be best to align. So let's not forget about where the columns are. We did not draw these walls, so now we need to go ahead and do so. And use my keyboard and delete. And I'm going to highlight this other wall and use my keyboard and delete. And then I'm going to click this southern wall and just drag it straight all the way to my corner. That way it creates a continuous line. Don't worry about this. This is part of the stairs, so you do not need to create that. Now, because this is just our base level, we do not need to create all of these inner walls other than this circle. This room right here is your library, and it is 3 stories high. So if you notice, it has a spiral staircase going up to the 2nd level. This is a what's called a conversation pit. So when you go into this library, you can go down these stairs and create a little conversation pit, throw some pillows maybe, put some seating, and just have like a little relaxing area to read some books, maybe for the kids to play, just a nice, soft, relaxing area. But to create it and to create this gap, you do have to create the walls on the lower level for this conversation pit. So just to show you what you've done so far, I'm going to place it in 3D. And in 3D, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my AutoCAD base just so as you see it, you can see it continually being built. So to turn off your AutoCAD base in your 3D view only, we're going to go to properties after we're in the 3D view. So remember, to get to the 3D view, you click the little house in your quick access toolbar. From there, we're going to go down to identity data in our properties, find view template, and where it says none, I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to select architectural presentation 3D. In here, we can change and adjust our visibility graphics and override multiple different things in case we don't want to show some of this in our view. So all I'm doing is I'm clicking edit. You can go specifically to your import category and hit edit, or if you click any of these edits, it still takes you to the same window, but you have to go to the correct tab. So because I clicked edit under model categories, I'm just going to use my tabs and go to imported categories. And where it says show imported categories, you'll see level 1, level 2, and level 3. So technically you can turn off individual levels, or you can turn off each level all at once by checking this box and hitting apply. Then I'm going to hit close and OK. Now, you can also hide your levels if you'd like, but just so you see, this is what you drew in 3D. These are what's called scope boxes. For the meantime, I'm just going to right click and hide them in view by element, just to make it easier for you to view. So picture this as your foundation. Right here will be your stairs, but right now, because all of this is just open space, we need to create our conversation pit, because while all of the top will be sealed off, we need to be able to walk down into that conversation pit. Now we have to draw the conversation pit. So let's go ahead and take a quick dimension, a quick measurement, if you will, from the quick access toolbar and click our measurement button. Let's verify the depth of the wall, and it says 5 inches roughly. So in that case, we're going to click wall. And this time under location line, we're going to do finish face exterior. Then we're going to go to the modify panel under draw. This is called start end radius arc. It's a 3-point arc. Go ahead and select that. Hover over until you catch the center point of the exterior part of this wall. Click once, drag till you get the next center point, and now drag up until it clicks in the center. Repeat the steps, and this time go down. Now you have a perfect circle. Let's look at it in 3D view. To look at it in 3D view, again, select your house. And here is the base of the house. Now let's go ahead and draw a floor for this level. We're going to do 2 things. We're going to draw the floor for the entire surface, base surface, and then we're going to draw it so like that the floor in your conversation pit can differ from everything else. And again, this is just your slab, so normally this will be concrete. To draw the floor, we're going to go to the Architecture tab and Floors. And just do Architectural Floor. And this is going to put you in draw mode. You know you're in draw mode because everything is now half-toned. You have draw mode available in your modify panel. You have a green check mark and a red X. To get in and out of draw mode, you have to either say, okay, I'm done drawing and select your green check mark, or cancel all of this. I don't like it. Let's cancel out by clicking the red X. So to begin, I'm going to select my floor type, and I'm just going to do a generic concrete 4-inch. Now, we can always modify this later, create different types of floors, and create various materials for them. So there's two ways to draw floors. When you draw a floor, the floor is per boundary. When you're in draw mode, you have to have a boundary line. So let's say in this dining room right here, I want a different floor than what's in the kitchen. Then I would create two different floors. So I would do a boundary line just in the dining room, and then I would click my green check mark, and then I would repeat the process and do it for the next room. But because we are just on the base floor, we're going to just create two types of floors. We're going to create it once around the entire perimeter of the house, and then once in the conversation pit. So in that case, I'm just going to select my line. I'm going to start in the same corner I started my wall. And I'm just going to take the floor to the finished face of the interior side. And I'm just going to trace out the entire perimeter of the building, just like I did the walls. The only difference is I'm not going to go in and trace those columns. Just going to trace every area that I traced the wall. And everything has to be a closed loop. So essentially, I started here and I ended here, and those two lines have to connect without intersecting. The line cannot be over one side and then the other. It cannot look like this at all. Otherwise, that will give you errors. You have to connect it and close the loop. Before we click our green checkbox, we're going to go ahead and create a circle. The reason we're doing this is because we are telling Revit we want to create a floor everywhere except this inner boundary. So now you should have the entire perimeter with one pink circle in it. From there, you can click OK, which is the green checkbox. And you can see everywhere that there's a floor, it is now this cyan blue color only because it's the selected area. When I click out of it, that goes away. Now we have to create a secondary floor inside the circle, so later on we can change the material. So again, I'm going to go to floor. I'm still going to use that concrete floor. I'm just going to use the circle, try to catch the center, and just bring it out to the wall. And from there, I'm just going to click OK. And now it's done. But just for the sake of appearance while we're working, I'm going to adjust the visibility of that floor. So after I select it, and to select it, I'm hovering and I catch the wall. Using my keyboard, I'm going to hit Tab until I select just the floor. So I hit Tab once, and now it's selecting all the wall. And you see it says chain of walls. That's your selection. I'm going to hit Tab again, and it says floor, concrete. I'm going to select it. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to select override graphics and view, and then I'm going to select elements. Just so I know that this floor is going to differ, I'm going to change my foreground material and just give it a quick background, a little image, so to speak. I'm going to select wood 3, and I'm going to do the same in background also. Wood 3, and hit apply, and OK. And now I know that that floor will differ from my other floor. You can do the same if you'd like for your overall floor. So to do that, hover over one of the exterior walls, pay attention to your cursor, tab once, it says chain of walls, we don't want that. Tab again, give it a second, and it says floor concrete, select, right click, override graphics and view, select elements. I'm going to go to my pattern. Let's just put concrete, since this is a concrete slab, and then do that in background also, and hit apply. This is basically just that those are the two various floors in this area. I can go back to my 3D view. Oh, we need to save. The pop-up will pop up if you have not saved in a while. So if that pops up, do not ignore it. Go ahead and hit save. After that, it will take me to my command. So as you can see, I now have my walls and I have my floor. I have my conversation pit and I have my floor. You'll see in 3D view, this circle differs from the other outline perimeter. Now we can begin on level 2, drawing our interior walls. So I'm going to go to level 2. I'm going to go ahead and close out any inactive views, and I'm going to start drawing the interior walls and exterior walls. So same thing, we have to start with the exterior. And then we can move on to our interior. Now, what we can do is probably what's best for our overall exterior walls, because our overall exterior walls have to go to the ceiling. Let's go ahead and just select our exterior walls from level 1. When you do that, you'll notice it only grabs the CAD base plan. So now let's take one step back and go back to level 1. I showed you how the base constraint of the wall is only going up to level 2. But what we want to do is go back to level 1, select our exterior wall. And just so you can see, I'm going to close out level 2. I have my 3D view open and my level 1. I'm going to do WT for my window tile again. I'm going to bring this into view so you can see it. And we're going to go ahead and change that to go up to level 4. If we need to modify any of the walls later, we can always adjust by that specific wall. So to do this, I'm going to select one of my exterior walls. And you'll notice if I select it in one window, it's highlighted in the other. I'm going to right click. I'm going to select all instances in entire project. And now you can see it selected the entire perimeter. And the reason it didn't select your conversation pit walls is because it's looking for your 8-inch generic wall, and your conversation pit is your 5-inch generic wall. We only want our conversation pit to go up to level 2. However, we want to change our exterior walls to go up to level 4. And notice how they grow. So now when we create our interior walls and our interior floors, it will fit within this building. So now I'm going to close my 3D view. I'm going to go to my level 2. I'm going to go ahead and hit save just so we don't lose any of that. I'm going to close level 1. And I'm going to take a measurement of my interior walls just to verify that they're 4 inches. And it looks like these are 5, so we're going to use our 5-inch wall. So I'm going to go to Architecture, Wall. And remember, we use the 5-inch wall to go to our finished faced exterior earlier. Let's change that back to our wall center line. We want to make sure our base constraint is level 2 and our top constraint is up to level 3. So like that, when we draw our interior walls, they only go up to level 3. So same thing, we're going to zoom in and pick a point. We're going to catch it from center to center and trace all of our interior walls, tracing over any doors. So there you see I have my center point with my X. I'm just going to start tracing. And as I'm going over it, you'll notice all of the yellow is being covered up by my white wall. The yellow is my CAD base. The white is my Revit. You just want to make sure that all your walls connect and that you have this perfect little T in each area. Same thing from here. Get that angle. Try to do it in one wall as often as you can. Hitting escape each time you need to move to a different area. For this arced wall, I'm going to go ahead and just create the wall to that point, and when we create the arc of it, it should intersect between each other. So every time I'm going to a new space, I'm hitting escape. I'm saving that arc wall for last. I don't like that little jog, so I'm going to delete that wall and then go back into my wall command. And just trace it till I get that center point. Take it as far as I can. I can also take the wall, select it, and using the arrows on my keyboard, nudge it up to where it aligns. Again, going over any doors and ignoring any openings. I'm going to continue to look, make sure I get all of those yellow lines traced. Now, the only one I should have left is the arc for the stairway. To do that, just like I did my conversation pit, I'm going to use my start end radius arc. Same thing with right here. I'm going to go ahead and create similar by using CS. Start at the end. And you can either create this arc or you can just use this as railing. So like that, you have openings underneath your stairs to do anything. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to leave it open to create an automated staircase. But on this side, we'll have a handrail. So I'm going to delete that wall as well. So now our interior walls for level 2 are done. I'm going to hit 3D. And I'm just going to tilt it a little bit so you can see your walls are created. You'll see there's some depth for your conversation pit. And now it just looks like a bunch of rooms. So now we need our floor. Let's go ahead and save our work and create floors. My recommendation for you guys would be to figure out which rooms you want to render, such as the library or the dining room, the foyer or the living room, and just kind of determine where you want to do some renders at. And in those rooms, those would be the rooms that you give their own individual floors. Otherwise, you can just, again, do the perimeter with the exception of those rooms. So in my case, I'm going to use the library as its own individual floor. I'm going to go ahead and use the office, which is right here, as its own individual floor. And then I'm going to leave the rest and just kind of do an overall perimeter of these areas. So to do that, I'm going to again go to floor. Let's just again use the concrete 4-inch floor. We can change the types later. And I'm going to select my line tool. I'm going to pick an area and start. I usually like to start in this upper left corner. But instead of going all the way down, because my library is going to be a point that I render out with a different type of floor, I'm just going to go up to the library. And then I'm going to trace area that I want the same floor. Now you have to be careful because it has to be a closed loop. So what I mean by that is just like how we had the square, you can't section off and have lines have multiple loops like this. It can only be one overall loop. So just pay attention to where your boundary is and what you're tracing and what you want the same floors to be. If I'm not going to render it out, I'm going to leave it as the same generic concrete floor. I'm going to bring it to the end. Just try to keep it on the perimeter, with the exception of the rooms I want to render. Just like we did on level 1. Trace everywhere with the perimeter, except this is for level 2. Now, because I said I wanted to do the office, I'm going to go up and around the office, down the side of it, to the front foyer. And again, I said I wanted to do the library. So again, skipping the library. And I'm going to skip that art. So right here, I don't have a closed loop because you'll see these lines. I'm just going to delete them. So in your project, you have to pay attention to make sure if you're just doing the perimeter with the exception of 2 rooms that you're going to render out, make sure you don't have any lines that overlap, any lines that intersect. You just want to make sure you have a closed loop. Once you make sure you have a closed loop, just like I do here with the exception when I deleted those lines, I can then click my green checkbox. And then I'm not going to worry about attaching it. So just hit don't attach. And you can see all the rooms are filled with the exception of the library, the office. And it looks like I missed the pantry here, but that's fine. I'll just add another floor in it and start over. So now for the most part, it's done. Now I need to do those 3 rooms, and those have to be done with their own perimeter. So I'm going to select floor again, concrete, level 2, line. Now I'm just going to trace each room individually, clicking the green check mark in between each room. Because if I were to do it with the green box here, I'm sorry, with the boundary here, the boundary here, and the boundary here, that means those 3 rooms will be the same. Now, we want an opening because we already created a floor on level 1 for the conversation pit. So we have to create that circle again. In this case, I'm just going to use my pick lines. And I'm going to select those walls. Then I'm going to create my green checkbox. And I'm going to hit don't attach. And there it created the floor with a void in the conversation. Going to repeat the process for the office. And then I'm going to hit the green checkbox. And lastly, I'm going to go ahead and do this room that I forgot over here. But hey, I might render it out because a walk-in pantry is included in my dream house. Floor. And again, I just want to note that this is all just practice. This isn't essentially a real house. A real house, you would have to have your grid. You would have to have your architect and structural engineers look at it to verify structure of the wall and where the interior columns and exterior columns go. And there's my floor. So now when I place my project in 3D, I now have interior walls that go up to level 3. If I want to turn it around and look at this corner where the library is, I can, and I can see that conversation pit. I'm going to right click. I'm going to select this wall that's near the library. I'm going to right click it, override graphics and view by element. And I'm just going to make it transparent just so when we're working through this, you can see what's going on in that room. I'm probably going to do about a 40% transparency. Hit apply. And now you can see where the white lines are is the guideline, and then the wall is see-through. I'm going to right click on this front wall also and repeat those same steps. And again, at about a 40% transparency. And now I can see my conversation pit, my wall, and I can see what's going on. You can see that it's dropped down in that room. Now let's go ahead and hit save and repeat those same steps in level 3. We know that there are 5-inch walls. So I'm going to go to wall. I'm going to make sure that it's on center line or wall center line, level 3 to level 4. You already know that we have to trace over the windows, over the doors. So I'm just going to do a quick speed build and trace over it, making sure I capture each wall. So right here, when I mentioned earlier that we may have to adjust some of the exterior walls, these are some of those walls. And the reason for that is these columns only go up to level 3. And then at level 3, it's pushed back and it has a little bit of room for a roof. We'll adjust that in a moment after we finish drawing out our interior walls. And I'm just tracing roughly, knowing that I can adjust by dragging it or aligning it. Just pretty much trying to get through tracing. I like to kind of try to fix it as I go along. That way I don't have too much to fix once I'm done. In little areas like this, I just like to highlight, use my keyboard, and use my arrows to nudge it. It'll nudge it just a little bit at a time. I'm using my create similar command. Anytime I hit escape, I need to go back in. Saving the arc stairway for last. I'm just trying to get all the sharp edges faster because those 90 degrees are easier to create. I go up to this edge and stop. And then I'm going to go down here where the straight line is and bring it up to the curved point and stop. This little hall closet, I'm going to bring to the end, trace it out. And then I'm just going to select my arc. Get it aligned to the areas that I need it. And it's okay to leave it center line, center line. So now all of our walls are traced except for this area right here. I'm going to hit save. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the walls right here and right here. Then we will select these walls and tell it to go up to level 3 and then do a new exterior wall right here. So to split a wall, I'm going to go to modify. And these two buttons in your modify panel are split element and split with gap. We don't want a space between them, but we do want a split. So we're going to use the split element or on your keyboard, SL. And all I'm going to do is create a split right here, and you can see where it is, and create a split in the center right here. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to select that wall and then the columns. And to do that, I am holding my keyboard, the control button, and I'm just selecting the walls I want. And where it says up to level 4, I'm going to change that to level 3. I'm going to copy similar on this wall, which is my 8-inch, and then I'm going to trace that exterior. Those didn't really go into each other, so that's okay. And the reason it didn't is because this one starts on level 3 and this one starts on level 1. So now when we go to our 3D view, you can see this has a gap right here. We'll create a floor and then we'll create a roof over it here in a little while. But you see that our floors are, we need to do our floors and our walls all are adjusted properly. So now let's go back to level 3. Because I'm not doing any renders on level 3, I'm going to just do the perimeter of the entire house with the exception of the library. Go ahead and skip the library, and we will worry about the floor to the library on level 3 when we get to stairs. Stairs will be one of our next videos. So I'm going to go to architecture. I'm going to go to floor. To create my boundary. I start in the same corner I always like to. Skipping over the library, but getting the rest of the house. To try to keep it as even as possible. There you see I took it to the center line. You only need to take it to the front of the finished face wall on the interior side. Way out. Come down, and then our green check mark. We don't have to worry about attaching, but this is what you should see, skipping over the library. Now, we're going to go ahead and draw the floor over this area, essentially just for visibility purposes, and we will put the roof over it later. Just from wall to wall. Now I can put it in 3D view, and I have all my floors for the house done. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now I'm going to go back to level 2, and we need to go ahead and create our ceilings. So let's go to level 2. We're going to go to the architectural tab in the ribbon. We're going to select ceiling. In our drop down, we're just going to select a generic ceiling, but we need to adjust our offset height. Remember, your levels are 12 feet between each other. You need to leave a little bit of a gap between levels. So like that, you can run your mechanicals. Let's go ahead and set our ceiling height to 10 feet. Oh, I accidentally hit escape. All right, let's do our ceilings. Go to your architectural tab, click on ceilings, use your drop down, select basic generic ceiling. Make sure it's on the appropriate level. Offset height, let's do 9 feet. It should already be preset to 9 feet because our levels are 12 feet between each other, and we need to leave roughly about 3 feet between for any mechanical, electrical, HVAC, and stuff to be ran between levels. So to do a ceiling, you can either do an automatic ceiling, which kind of creates it for you, and you just have to click per room, or you can sketch your ceiling just like you did your floors. But to make it faster, I'm going to click on automatic ceiling, and I'm just going to click each room. It says none of the elements are visible. I got a warning in level 2. The reason for that is because they are offset at such a high height, and our cut plane is only at 4 feet. So that's okay. Just close out that warning and know that your ceiling is there. If you have this red box around it, it's creating a ceiling. And just don't worry about your warning on this one. Now, for the library, I'm not going to create a ceiling because our ceiling is going to be on level 3. Other than that, I'm pretty much creating a ceiling everywhere. Ignoring my warnings, and I'll show you why in just a moment. All right, that's each room. I'm going to cut a section just so I can show you the whole house with the floor and ceiling. Now remember, a section is like viewing the house like a dollhouse. It's like opening up the dollhouse. I'm going to use my quick access toolbar. select section, click on one end and go all the way to the other. Right click on one of the arrows and hit go to view. So here you have level 1. You have the floor to level 1. Here you have level 2. You have the floor to level 2. We don't need a ceiling on level 1 because it's not a livable level. Here we have level 3 at 15 feet, but you see this line right here? This is your ceiling. All of this area is the space for your mechanical information. So even though you were getting those warning signs, you still have your ceiling. So now we're done with the ceiling for level 2. We're just going to repeat that process on level 3. Click ceiling, make sure it's generic. We're going to offset it 9 feet. And then we're just going to automatically sketch the ceiling, ignoring our warnings for each room. This time, we are going to select the library. It did not like the boundary for the hallway and the stairwell. So we may have to come back to that. Yep, we're going to have to come back to that. So skip over that, but do every other room. All right, that's every other room. So now the ceiling is done with the exception of this hallway and the stairwell. We can go ahead and delete our section. We're going to go back to ceiling, still on generic. This time we're going to hit sketch instead of automatic. We're just going to trace the same way we did with the floors. Still has to have a closed loop. You can change it to arc, back and forth from straight to arc. To get that arc where you need to. You should only have to do that once. I'm sorry, twice, because you do have to get that closed loop. I'm going to delete that and do the arc again. Also use your pick line. All I'm tracing is my hallway area. Just like that. And my green checkbox. And there we go. That is your ceilings, walls, and floors. So now when you put it in 3D, there's your completed building without the roof, without doors, and without windows.